To save the girl I loved most, I chose to betray her right when she loved me the most. Everyone called me a heartless bastard, and I coldly abandoned her to become a drug trial subject. 3 years later, I ended my life as a subject. The first thing I did wasn't to apologize, but to go to a funeral service center. Due to 3 years of drug trials, my organs have severely failed, leaving me with only 1 month to live. I don't want her to find out the truth about my calculated betrayal and live the rest of her life with guilt and regret, so I will leave forever with this secret. Mr. Gio, the total cost of the funeral package you reserved is $86,000. I looked at the bank card in my hand and whispered, I only have $50,000. I never thought that even choosing how to die would become a luxury for me. I handed over the bank card. For now, I only have $50,000. I can pay the rest in a few days. You can pay it in a month. Making $36,000 in a month is a very tough task. However, there is one method I might try. I arrived at the entrance of the biggest jewelry gala of the year. Since I didn't have an invitation, the security guard stopped me at the entrance. I waited outside for 3 hours until the people inside finished the event. Vivian walked out hand in hand with Jonathan with a graceful stride. Vivian, Mr. Bay is so good to you. He bought an $80 million villa without blinking. Of course, Vivian said you only get married once, so he'll give you the best of everything. This is his promise to never divorce me. Vivian heard my voice. Upon seeing me, a swarm of emotions flashed through her eyes, which ultimately turned into deep hatred. I walked up to Vivian and took a set of shell bracelets off my wrist. Vivian, I want to trade this bracelet for $36,000. I made this bracelet myself when we were dating and went to the beach. You collected the shells and made it by hand. You said I could trade it for the most valuable thing in the world. Vivian snatched the bracelet from me with a look that seemed like she wanted to devour me alive. Gio, 3 years without seeing you and you come to me just to ask for money. I lowered my head to avoid her gaze. If you can't, forget it. Either way, I didn't have high hopes. I just wanted to see her one last time before I die. I want to remember her face well. Saying that, I reached out my hand to take the shell bracelet back. However, Vivian threw the bracelet onto the ground. He's the bastard who abandoned Mr. Bay. Back then, Mr. Bay was just starting his business. He had sudden heart failure and needed a heart transplant to survive. Hearing that, he abandoned Mr. B, he lived off someone else and fled abroad. I bet he regrets it now, coming back so shamelessly. If I were Mr. Bay, I'd kill him. What they're saying is true, but no one knows the hidden truth behind the facts. Back then, Vivian suffered acute heart failure and needed a heart transplant. I tried so hard and finally found a matching heart for Vivian. The donor was brain dead. His father was a passionate drug researcher. The only condition to donate his son's heart was for me to volunteer as a test subject for his new experimental drug. I know Vivian would never agree to me finding out, so I got someone to help me pretend I was dumping her. 3 years of medical trials have severely damaged my body, multiple organ failure. The doctors say I won't live more than a month. Vivian pressed her foot down harder. My entire arm trembled in pain. I lifted my head to look at Vivian. Vivian, a faint smirk appeared in my eyes. Vivian, by doing this, you're making me think you're still not over me. She kicked me and I fell to the ground. You deserve it. My chest throbbed with pain and my face turned pale. I clenched my teeth to keep from making a sound. I crouched on the ground. Piece by piece, I picked up the broken shell bracelet and shoved it into my pocket to leave. They say you did something for 10 grand back then. Do it again for 10 grand now. The surrounding crowd burst out laughing instantly and tossed me another 10 grand. If you think that's not enough money, I'll give you another 10 grand. My face burned. My pride got the better of me. I wanted to walk away, but they tightly surrounded me. Vivian, let's go. That guy isn't worth giving a second glance. Vivian and Jonathan were about to get in the car when someone over there directly surrounded me. I crouched on the ground. I wrapped my arms tightly around myself, my vision blurring. It felt like I was back in my childhood, but this time no one came to save me. I was the one who pushed away the person who always protected me. Everyone get out. Then a warm jacket was draped over me. Shawn, and Ryan, I left you to live like this after you dumped me to go abroad with him. Cold, yet with a subtle trace of concern, I saw it in her eyes, concern for me. When he got tired of playing around, he dumped me. It was all for his money anyway. I haven't lost anything. What are you trying to prove, Vivian? Vivian shoved me hard to the ground. You're such trash, so desperate for money. Vivian had her assistant bring over $100,000. She threw it right at me. The sharp corners cut my cheek. No discounts for a month of service. Starting today, you're my servant. I'm going to mess with you real slow this month. She said this and got into the car with Jonathan. I slowly picked up the $100,000 off the ground and scoffed. Lucky me. In just one day, I made the money for my goal. I took the cash and went back to the funeral home. After paying, I grabbed a cab to the address Vivian left me. As soon as I arrived at Lakeside Villa, the housekeeper handed me a servant's uniform. Put this on fast. Mr. Bay said to have you stand guard at his door tonight. I changed my clothes and walked up to the second-floor bedroom door. Before I even got close, I heard voices coming from inside. I froze on the spot. Those voices felt like invisible daggers stabbing right through my heart. I wanted to run away in a hurry, but the room door suddenly swung open. She locked her piercing gaze on me. How does it feel listening in on others outside the door? I know Vivian is getting her revenge on me, but the facts back then can't have any flaws. Mr. Bay paid a lot of money. I'd be happy to give you private lessons. What trash. It's true you'll do anything for money. I forced a seductive smile onto my face. Of course, who's gonna say no to money? Vivian shoved me away. I don't like men like you, but I bet the dogs won't turn you down. Vivian coldly ordered, take him to the backyard to play with Cyber. Instantly, two servants stepped up and dragged me toward the backyard. When I reached the backyard, I realized. Cyber was a fierce Tibetan Mastiff. Seeing its massive paws made my entire body tremble. I was bitten by a dog in the orphanage when I was a kid, and I've always had a deep fear of dogs. No, don't go in. Let me go, please. Let me go, Shawn. Shawn, didn't you say you'd do anything for money? Why are you scared now? What little sanity I had left controlled my brain. I fought back the trembling and said, I'll do anything for money, but not this kind of job. The money you gave me isn't enough. I'll throw in another 100 grand, lock this man up for me. The workers shoved me hard into the cage and locked me in. Cyber stalked toward me with a fierce stride. I clung to the cage. Fear and despair overwhelmed my every thought. My inner defense crumbled and I couldn't stay calm anymore. Vivian, I was wrong. I was wrong. Please let me out. Vivian looked at me. This man who had once hurt her was now kneeling before her, weeping in painful regret, but she didn't feel a single drop of pleasure in this revenge. Instead, in that moment, I suddenly screamed in agony. Cyber bit into my calf. When I woke up a few days later, I saw the bodyguards carrying me away and Vivian running behind like crazy. She didn't even notice that I had fallen. She stared at me, envy and cruelty glinting in her eyes. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself lying in a soft bed. The wound on my calf was already bandaged. Jonathan was right beside me. Seeing me wake up, his voice turned sharp as he asked, Shawn, why did you come back? You left Vivian all alone that year. You left her alone in the wedding house. Do you know she almost died? When I got there, she was covered in blood, constantly calling out your name. She wasn't meant to die. As soon as I rushed her to the hospital, I got the news. They found a matching heart for her. But the first thing she did after her heart transplant surgery was look for you. She said she was all better now, so you wouldn't be disgusted by her. She was going to work hard to make money and give you the best life. And you ran off abroad to party with some rich woman. Do you know how hard Vivian cried at the airport back then, her tears streaming down? My voice cracked. In these past 3 years, my pain was no less than Vivian's. I was trapped in that lab with no daylight, unable to step outside day after day with nothing but endless pills and endless drug trials. I stayed by Vivian's side for 3 years just to gain a place in her heart. Now we're finally getting married. But you, man, you come back to harass Vivian again just for money. I wanted to say it wasn't for money, that I was dying and just wanted to see Vivian one last time, but in the end, I couldn't say a word. I will absolutely not let scum like you stay by Vivian's side. He yanked me off the bed and pulled me up. Then he slammed himself into the wall. Red blood gushed from his forehead. Vivian came rushing in. She quickly helped Jonathan up and asked anxiously, Jonathan, are you okay? I froze, never expecting Jonathan to frame me like this. Just as I was about to defend myself, Vivian raised her foot and kicked me. Her gaze was terrifyingly cold. If anything happens to Jonathan, I'll make you pay with your life. Saying that, she helped Jonathan up and rushed off to the hospital. I collapsed to the floor, feeling a sharp pain in my abdomen. I curled up completely from the pain, but what hurt more was my heart. Vivian hates me, she even wants to kill me. Shawn, isn't this what you wanted? Why are you sad? I wish I could die right now. I don't know how much time passed. The housekeeper barged into the room with some men, dragging me off to the hospital. Drive as if I were an unrepentant sinner at the hospital. Jonathan's head was already bandaged. At this moment, he was pale and resting in Vivian's arms. Vivian's eyes were full of anguish, but upon seeing Shawn, it turned into deep-seated hatred. Kneel down and apologize to Jonathan. I was forced to my knees on the floor, unable to move. At this moment, I also stopped struggling with deep despair in my eyes. If I apologize, will you let me go and leave me alone? I'm so tired, both physically and mentally. Now I just want to find a quiet place and wait in silence for my end. Hearing the word leave, her heart took a jolt. She grabbed a cup by the bed. She splashed a glass of water right into my face. You have no right to bargain with me, Shawn. You owe me. You can never repay this debt. Vivian, you're making it sound like you don't know how to play the game. Dating and breakups between men and women are normal. How did it become me owing you something? You're an untrustworthy person. Hold him down and make him kneel and apologize to Jonathan. Immediately, someone slammed my head hard against the cold, hard floor. Once, twice, three times until my forehead was red and swollen. With bloodstains everywhere, she still didn't stop. Vivian, I'm already fine, let him go. Vivian patted Jonathan's shoulder. Jonathan, this man has a malicious heart. He even dared to hurt you. You don't have to pity him. I don't pity him. I want you to be free. It's been 3 years. Vivian, you must let him go. Jonathan, don't overthink it. I don't love him anymore. Now I just want revenge on this ungrateful man. Is that really true? Of course, I promise you before our wedding I'll make him disappear completely from our world. Jonathan nodded reluctantly. Vivian turned to look at me, my head covered in blood. She gave the order, find a doctor to bandage his wound. Doctor. Lynn, who was brought in a hurry, saw me on the floor and was shocked. Mr. Shawn, how are you here? Do you know him? I was startled. Dr. Lynn is the one who knows the truth about that year. She had warned me back then. Doctor. Liu is a medical lunatic. Even her own son was turned into a vegetable by her. If you become the test subject in her lab, it will be like trading one life for another. I insisted on saving Vivian, even if it meant sacrificing my life. If Vivian looked into this deeply, the truth from back then couldn't be hidden. I spoke up first to cut in. Ms. Liu and I accidentally entered the hospital that year, and Dr. Lin treated us in the ER. Vivian, with a gloomy and terrifying expression, said, thoroughly disinfect this room and the people inside. After giving the order, she left with Jonathan. I pulled on Dr. Lin's lapel and begged her, Dr. Lin, please don't tell Vivian the truth about what happened back then. Dr. Lin looked at my battered state and asked, you spent 3 years suffering in that lab just to save her. Now you barely have any time left and she hates your guts. Is it really worth all of this? A faint smile formed on my lips. My eyes were just as resolute as back then, and I said, it's worth it. Soon, a group of nurses in hazmat suits came in, spraying disinfectant all over my body and the room. The thick fumes made my eyes water. Dr. Lin sighed deeply and handed me a tissue. Then, Dr. Lin disinfected the wound on my forehead. Over the next few days, Vivian stopped pulling crazy stunts on me. She simply treated me like a slave to torment me. She made me carry a basin of foot-washing water for her, then kicked it over, spilling the water and forcing me to kneel on the floor to wipe it clean. The food I poured my heart into cooking, Vivian threw it straight to the dogs right in front of my face. Vivian took Jonathan luxury shopping and dropped tens of millions, buying up every single watch in a store. She didn't buy just one, but forced me to carry them all back to the villa on foot until I ran for a day and a night and collapsed on the road from sheer exhaustion. When I woke up in the hospital again, Dr. Lin told me, because of the extreme overexertion over the last few days, your body can't take it anymore. You have 1 week left to live at most. Hearing this brought me a wave of relief. Finally, I won't have to keep living this half-baked life while dwelling on my bitter feelings for Vivian. However, before I die, I still have one thing left to do. Right then, Vivian's phone rang. Vivian barked orders at me through the receiver. Shawn, you just passed out from the heat. How long are you planning to slack off in the hospital? Hurry up and get over to Romantic Bridal Shop to help me try on wedding dresses. I got out of bed and rushed to the bridal shop. Since my face was ghostly pale and terrifying, I even asked a nurse to put some makeup on me to cover it up. When I arrived at the shop, Vivian and Jonathan had already put on their wedding gown and tux and stepped out of the fitting room. The whole gown had a light-colored hue as its main theme, perfectly accentuating Vivian's breathtaking figure. This wedding dress is truly stunning. I heard Ms. Bay designed it herself. The lavender on the suit was custom recreated piece by piece straight from Provence. Mr. Sun is so lucky. Ms. Bay is so rich, gorgeous, and madly in love with him. Marrying a woman like that is like hitting the jackpot for 8 lifetimes. Right? I froze in my tracks. My eyes involuntarily welled up with tears. This wedding dress was identical to the one I once designed for Vivian. Vivian actually made it, but the person she wanted to marry wasn't me anymore. Vivian gently fixed Jonathan's hair, but when her gaze turned to meet mine, it transformed into a scorching, razor-sharp blade. With a flush on her face, she sneered, and you claimed you were anemic. As expected, you schemed with the doctor to make up an excuse. You caught me. I originally wanted to take advantage of it to rest for a few more days. HMPH. Shawn, I hired you for 100 grand a month, not for you to come here and dream about me. Hurry up and put the shoes on Jonathan. I walked over and picked up the designer shoes from the rack. I placed them at Jonathan's feet. Jonathan lifted his foot, put the shoe on, and stomped down hard on the back of my hand. Jonathan slowly raised his foot and said nonchalantly, sorry, I didn't see where I was stepping. Vivian looked at the back of my hand with a soft expression. You're just a servant. If he steps on you, why do you need to apologize? Vivian walked over, knelt in front of Jonathan, and personally put the shoes on him. Jonathan looked down at Vivian with a bright smile with raw love shining in his eyes. The store clerks were quick on their feet too. Jonathan adjusted his suit. Shawn felt a sharp pang of bitterness and was shoved aside by several people. He backed out of the room with a gloomy expression, but before I could take a few steps, my arm was grabbed from behind. Vivian dragged me into the break room next door and blocked my way. Shawn, if you hadn't pulled that act back then, all of this would be yours right now. You must be regretting it so much now. Regret? If I hadn't agreed to be her test subject back then, I wouldn't have spent those 3 years in pitch darkness. I wouldn't even be facing death right now. But seeing Vivian standing alive in front of me made me feel like it was all worth it. I dared to look her in the eye and said firmly, "No, I don't regret it." "Why did you abandon me for money back then? Now I have wealth and success. Why aren't you regretting it?" I shoved Vivian away, my voice cold. I buried the endless love deep in my heart. There's no why. I never regret anything I've done. After speaking, I pulled a bank card out of my pocket and handed it to Vivian. "Here's the remaining $64,000 back. From now on, I am no longer your property. Vivian, we are over." In an instant, Vivian seemed to be transported back 3 years ago when I, holding Ryan close, stood before her and said with the exact same coldness and cruelty, "Vivian, I don't love you anymore. From this day on, we are over." Seeing that Vivian said nothing, I shoved the card directly into her hand and turned to leave. I was terrified that if I stayed any longer, my emotions would overflow. I grabbed the doorknob. Vivian rushed up from behind, wrapped her arms around my waist, and slammed me against the wall. "Shawn, do you think I'm still the same foolish Vivian from 3 years ago, that you can leave whenever you want, that you can throw me away whenever you feel like it?" Before she could finish speaking, Vivian kissed me forcefully. I fought back fiercely, but Vivian held me tighter. The door to the room suddenly burst open. Jonathan was standing at the entrance, his eyes wide open, staring at the two of us in the room in utter disbelief. Snapping back to her senses, Vivian let go of me and looked at Jonathan with guilt. Jonathan took several steps back and turned to run off. Jonathan, all my strength seemed to drain away. Without Vivian supporting me, I slid down the wall onto the floor. I raised my hand and touched my face. Tears kept streaming through my fingers. I could feel that Vivian still loved me, but I couldn't love her back. I'm going to die. Why is heaven torturing me and Vivian like this? Jonathan ran out of the bridal shop. He ran across the street and a speeding motorcycle slammed on its brakes right toward him. Vivian acted fast and grabbed him. Jonathan shoved Vivian's hand away and tried to throw himself back into traffic. "Why did you save me? Just let me die so you can be with Shawn openly." Vivian held Jonathan tightly. She pulled him to the side. "Jonathan, listen to me. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Jonathan, I really intended to marry you, but from the moment Shawn appeared in front of me, my heart was no longer mine. I hate him, but I love him even more. If I marry you now, it would be so unfair to you." Jonathan sobbed uncontrollably. He looked at Vivian. "Vivian, I don't want fairness. I just want to be with you. Shawn doesn't deserve your love. He abandoned you when you were most helpless and needed him most. I've always been by your side, Vivian. Why can't you look at me more? I've liked you for 5 years, but I've loved Shawn for 18 years. Ever since I first met him at the orphanage when I was 7 years old. When he gave me a cookie in the middle of the night while I was crying in secret, his face was forever etched in my heart. Even if he abandoned me in the past, I've never forgotten him. Fine, I guess I don't deserve you. Vivian, wake up. Shawn doesn't love you at all, he's just after your money." Vivian's eyes revealed a deep longing for love. "Even if it were for my money, I'd accept it. I can only gloat that I have money now and can finally give Shawn everything he wants." Vivian brought a crestfallen Jonathan back to the bridal shop. Just as she was about to confess her inner feelings, I spoke first. "Ms. Bay, back then I only came back to find you because I had a fight with Ryan. Ryan just called me to make up and she booked me a flight back to the US. I've already decided to leave. I won't be attending your wedding with Mr. Sun. I wish you both a happy marriage and a family soon." "Shawn, what have I been to you all this time? Ms. Bay, do you really need me to spell it out so clearly? Of course, I'm a gold digger. Before, when I split with Ryan, I wanted to cling to you like a cash cow again. Now that Ryan has come back to reconcile, naturally I choose the person I actually like. Honestly, Ms. Bay, it's not that you're bad, but I just prefer someone like Ryan." Vivian raised her hand and slapped me hard across the face. "Shawn, you are truly despicable." I put my hand to my stinging cheek and said with a raspy voice, "Yeah, I'm a gold digger. Ms. Bay should have known that 3 years ago." After saying that, I turned to leave. Vivian raised her arm and blocked my way. "Shawn, give me back my necklace. From now on, I hope to never see you ever again." I stopped and took off the shell necklace around my neck that he had broken and later repaired. I handed it to Vivian. Vivian took the necklace and once again stomped on it mercilessly until it was shattered to pieces. Beyond repair, I heard the sound of my heart breaking and asked, "Can I leave now? I also have something to return to you after you accept it. From now on, we will never have any relationship in this life or the next. I was waiting for this. I hope that when I die, Vivian will keep living healthy, happy, and peaceful." Vivian lowered head and said softly to Jonathan, "Jonathan, wait for me here a moment. I'll be right back. When I return, you'll be the only one in my heart and I'll love only you. Okay, I'll wait for you." Vivian took me in her car to the biggest candy store in the city. Bring out all the candy in the store. The clerk, hearing this request for the first time, asked with some hesitation, Miss, are you sure you mean everything? Vivian pulled out a black card and tossed it to the clerk. Yes, everything. All the candy in the warehouse was brought out before us. Vivian grabbed a huge bag and threw it in front of me. Shawn, when we were 7, you gave me a piece of candy and stole my heart. Now I'm giving it back to you 1,000 times over to pay you back in full. My nails dug deep into my palm, drawing blood, as I said in a steady voice, Fine, Vivian, from now on we owe each other nothing. Exactly, nothing. She didn't look at me again and turned away decisively until her figure completely vanished into the crowd. Only then did I pull my eyes away, unpack the candy on the ground, and stuff them into my mouth one after another. I didn't stop until I threw up. I squatted on the ground and cried out loud, venting all the grievances, pain, and suppressed love I had for Vivian over the past few years. Finally, I asked the clerk to pack up all this candy and send it to the kids at the city orphanage. I booked my funeral in Provence. I chose to be buried among the flowers and to have my ashes scattered across the lavender fields of Provence. Right before I boarded the plane, the big screen was broadcasting news about a car crash. I instantly recognized the wrecked car as Vivian's. My mind went completely blank and I rushed to the hospital, calling Vivian nonstop along the way. No one answered. I prayed for God to protect her and keep Vivian safe. I was willing to pay any price. The patient has been saved and is out of danger, but her eyes suffered severe impact. The cornea was severely damaged, and she will be blind when she wakes up. Jonathan felt like he'd been hit by a bolt of lightning. He grabbed the doctor's hands and begged, Doctor, please fix them. Her eyes are so important to her, she can't go blind. To cure her, a corneal transplant is the only option, but the hospital currently has no cornea donors. I rushed up to Dr. Lin said urgently, I'll donate my cornea. Please perform the surgery right away. Dr. Lin frowned. Shawn, you can't donate a cornea while you're alive, you know that. I don't have much time left to live anyway. Even if you don't have much time left, the hospital has no precedent for living cornea donation. Legally and morally, this isn't allowed. I grabbed a sharp scalpel from a nearby tray and pointed it at my neck. If I have to die for her to regain her sight, then I'll die right now so you can see it. Finally, after negotiations and signing a liability waiver, the hospital agreed to perform the surgery. I breathed a sigh of relief, turned to Jonathan and said, Please don't tell Vivian it was me who donated the cornea. What is going on? Why are you dying? Suddenly, he remembered the soap operas he'd seen on TV, and with a trembling voice he asked, Back then, did you really like Vivian because he betrayed you? A faint smile appeared on my face. Mr. Sun, please take good care of Vivian in the future. Saying that, I walked into the operating room without looking back. In the operating room, Vivian and I lay on 2 adjacent beds. I reached out and took Vivian's hand, lacing our fingers together, and whispered a name hidden deep in my heart. Vivian, I'm so happy I can do one last thing for you before I die. Vivian, I love you. Tears streamed down my eyes as the anesthesia slowly seeped into my body. I closed my eyes. My fingers finally fell limp. Vivian felt like she had had a very long dream, a dream that included our first meeting at the orphanage. Our first time holding hands, our first kiss, and then my betrayal. Then in the candy store, our hands intertwined. Confused, she heard someone say that the corneal surgery was a success. The donor had passed away. My body was covered with a white sheet and wheeled out of the operating room. Jonathan ran over anxiously and asked, What happened to him during the operation, Mr. Shawn went into shock from heart failure and passed away. Jonathan was in shock. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. He had just learned that my betrayal of Vivian back then might have a hidden explanation, and now I died right in front of him. Just at that moment, staff from the funeral center, holding the power of attorney I signed while alive, approached the doctor. Mr. Shawn reserved his funeral 10 days ago. Please hand Mr. Shawn's body over to us. After completing the paperwork and procedures, the doctor handed my body over to the funeral center staff. Jonathan rushed to stop them. You're saying Shawn, 10 days ago, reserved a funeral with you guys? He felt that the amount of information he received that day was too much to process all at once. 10 days ago was the day Shawn and Vivian argued. He already knew he was going to die back then. Yes, now we will fulfill the agreement. We will cremate Mr. Shawn's body and hold his funeral. Saying that, they wheeled my body away. Jonathan tried to stop them again. Vivian was wheeled out of the operating room. Unable to care about anything else, he accompanied her straight to the ICU. 2 hours later, Vivian woke up from the anesthesia and saw Jonathan by her side. Her disappointment was undeniable. Her dream was filled with my face, but upon waking up, it wasn't me she saw. She thought that guy is probably already on a plane to the US back with Ryan. Vivian, are you awake? I worried you, didn't I, Vivian? I'm so glad you're okay. The attending doctor came in to perform the post-op checkup on Vivian, who had just woken up. Your vision is normal. There's no post-op rejection reaction from the cornea. What? You're saying I had corneal surgery? Earlier in the operating room, I heard someone say something vaguely. At the time, she thought she was dreaming. Was she actually not correct? Due to the car accident, your eye was struck and the cornea was severely ruptured. If you hadn't gotten a corneal transplant, you would have gone blind. Who donated the cornea to me? Due to confidentiality rules, we cannot provide any information about the donor. Saying that, the doctor turned around and left. Vivian wanted to get out of bed right away. Vivian, what are you doing? If they won't tell me, I'll find out myself. At that moment, her heart was in a panic, fearing that what she heard in her dream was true. Jonathan tried to comfort Vivian, saying, I know who it is. It's a woman who died of a heart attack. The hospital, as a rule, can't disclose the donor's information, but I happened to see it during the surgery. I even had my assistant give her family some money as compensation. Vivian let out a breath, releasing the weight in her chest, laid back down on the hospital bed and said with a bit of self-deprecation, Do you know what, Jonathan? I just had a really long dream in the operating room. The dream was filled with Shawn's face. I even dreamed that he was the one who donated his cornea to me. That's ridiculous, right? If it were before, Jonathan surely would have badmouthed Shawn without hesitation, but now he couldn't say it, because Shawn really was the one who donated his cornea to Vivian and even sacrificed his life for it. Jonathan squeezed Vivian's hand tightly. Forget about Shawn. Just consider those memories of the past as a bright, beautiful dream and also a painful, unforgettable one. Vivian closed her eyes for a long time before nodding slowly. She really should look forward. Shawn, from now on, I will completely erase you from my memory. A week later, Vivian was discharged from the hospital. She began preparing for her wedding with Jonathan. News of the wedding spread all over the internet. The closer it got to the wedding, the more suffocated Vivian felt. Countless times I had the urge to fly to the US to find Shawn. It's just that every time this thought popped up, Vivian forced herself to squash it. She told herself that Jonathan saved her life and stood by her during the darkest, lowest moments of her life. She couldn't disrespect Jonathan. She gradually learned to numb herself. Only that way would she not feel pain. Vivian, with eyes full of tears, held Jonathan's hand and asked him for answers again and again. I loved you so much. Why were you so cruel to me? I can forgive you for abandoning me back then. I can also ignore everything you and Ryan did in the US. Shawn, come back to my side. Shawn, I have money now, I have power, I can make every dream you want come true. Why do you still choose Ryan over me? Why? At this moment, Jonathan's heart didn't feel good either. He always knew that Vivian loved Shawn deeply, even if she put on a good front during the day. He also knew that in her heart, she never forgot Shawn for a single moment. After taking Vivian home, Jonathan walked out of the villa and looked up at the dark sky. They say that after death, people turn into stars in the sky. Shawn, have you turned into a star now? Shawn, who exactly are you? Before, he thought Shawn was a greedy, materialistic, and vain man. Cruel. But after the cornea donation incident last time, Jonathan gradually realized that we had misunderstood him all along. Maybe there was an unknown truth behind all of this, but now he feels that it's already no need to dig any further because I'm already dead. Dead people can't come back to life. The truth might just end up burdening them. Setting the wedding as his deadline, Jonathan made a choice. If Vivian could truly take his hand and walk down the aisle, then he'd love and care for her with all he had, spending the rest of his life trying to warm her heart. If the two of them couldn't end up together, it just meant they weren't meant to be. He would let her go and tell Vivian about my cornea donation 3 days before the wedding. The relatives of both families, Bay and Son, gathered together to prepare for the main ceremony on the big day. Vivian, orphaned at a young age, was sent to an orphanage, so she had very few relatives to connect with. The Son family, however, is a big family. Many relatives from overseas came back to attend the wedding. Jonathan's cousin came back specifically from the US and brought his girlfriend along. Bro, sis-in-law, this is my girlfriend, Ryan. The mood in the room instantly grew tense. Vivian's eyes locked onto Ryan. You're his girlfriend, what about Shawn? Ryan felt like she was being stared down by a cold, venomous viper. She recognized Vivian. She couldn't help but sigh at how small the world was. She had put on a whole show in front of her back then at Shawn's request. Now she had become Vivian's relative, thinking back on what happened that year. She felt a bit embarrassed right then and said with a chuckle, Shawn, that was ages ago. We broke up a long time ago. Frank is my true love. Vivian slapped her across the face. You left shortly after Shawn went back to the US and now you say he's your true love. I'm gonna teach you a lesson today, you two-faced traitor. Ryan was stunned by the sudden slap, but she wasn't someone to be pushed around easily. Coming to her senses, she immediately struck back with a punch. Stop talking crap and framing me, I'm completely devoted to Frank. When was I ever unfaithful? Jonathan and Frank rushed in to pull them apart. You say so passionately that he's your true love. What about Shawn? If you didn't love him, why did you steal him from me back then? Why did you take him abroad? Frank felt like Vivian had a point, so he couldn't help but look at Ryan. Did you really do something to betray me? Frank, do you seriously doubt my devotion to you? What is he even talking about? Ryan couldn't care less about keeping secrets anymore and blurted out the truth from back then. What happened back then was just an act Shawn asked me to play. What? Back then, Shawn said he had to go away for a while and was afraid you'd chase after him, so he begged me to put on a show with him to shake you off. Nothing ever happened between him and me back then. As for taking him to the US, that was just another excuse to get you off his back. I've been in the US with Ryan for 3 years, and I've never seen any other guy by her side. Vivian, after digesting Ryan's words, asked again with utter disbelief, "Are you saying everything Shawn did behind my back with you that year was fake? And going to the US with you was also a lie?" "Yes." Getting that confirmed answer from Ryan, Vivian spun around and rushed out immediately. Given if what happened back then was fake, then the last time Shawn said he had reconciled with Ryan and was going back to the US, that must be fake too. Where has he been these past 3 years? Why did he lie to me? Vivian has way too many questions in her mind right now. Only by finding him can she get answers. Jonathan chased after her. "Vivian, are you going to look for Shawn?" "Yeah, I'm just looking for him to clear up the truth from back then. I want to know why he lied to me. After you clear it up, will you marry me?" Vivian moved her lips but couldn't give a positive answer. "Jonathan, I can't think about anything right now. I just want to find Shawn as soon as possible." Jonathan smiled bitterly. "I think I already know your answer, Vivian. I'm sorry, later I'll personally go to the Sun family home to apologize to your parents." Saying that, she ran off and called her assistant. She asked her assistant to track my whereabouts. "Vivian, stop looking, I know where Shawn is." Joy flooded Vivian. She didn't even have time to wonder why Jonathan knew my whereabouts. She asked impatiently, where is Shawn?" Jonathan took a deep breath and said slowly, "He's dead, Shawn is dead." Vivian's face darkened instantly. "Jonathan, I'm sorry I let you down. Why are you blaming Shawn?" Jonathan shook his head. He spoke the cruel truth. "I'm not blaming him, he really died. The day you had the car accident, your corneas were donated by him." Vivian's body shuddered. She collapsed to the ground. "That's impossible, you're lying to me, Shawn won't die." But what the doctor said in the operating room that day replayed in her mind. The corneal surgery was successful. Donor Shawn has passed away. She put her hands to her head in pain. So what happened that day was real, not an illusion. The next second, a mouthful of blood gushed from her mouth, and her entire body collapsed onto the floor. She kept repeating one phrase, "I was the one who killed Shawn." Jonathan immediately called emergency services and rushed Vivian to the hospital. After receiving treatment, Vivian was saved. She was lying on the hospital bed as if her soul had been ripped out with no trace of life in her. Jonathan's eyes were red. He sat beside Vivian, took her hand and said, "Vivian, pull yourself together. Shawn didn't die because of you. He barely had any time left to live anyway." Vivian reacted slightly, looked up and stared at Jonathan. "What do you mean he barely had any time left to live?" That day, Shawn rushed to the hospital and said he wanted to donate his corneas to you. At first, Dr. Lin refused on the grounds that living donations aren't allowed. He pulled out a scalpel, held it to his neck and said he was going to die anyway. If he had to die to donate, then he'd die right now. Later on, the hospital made him sign a liability waiver before agreeing to perform the donation surgery. During the surgery, he suffered cardiac arrest and went into shock. As soon as he died, people from the funeral center picked him up and took his body. They said he had arranged his funeral 10 days ago, the exact day you two reunited. "So Vivian, Shawn didn't die because of you. Bring Dr. Lin here." Soon, Dr. Lin was brought before Vivian. "Ms. Bay, what is it you called me for?" Vivian raised her brow, staring intently at her. "I want to know everything about Shawn." Dr. Lin feigned confusion and said, "I don't know anything about Mr. Shawn. Ms. Bay, you have the wrong person." "Dr. Lin, you're a smart person, aren't you? I don't want to get rough with you." She looked at the woman before her, who looked sickly yet still radiated a powerful aura. She couldn't help but recall Shawn's tearful pleas begging her. "Ms. Bay, sometimes people shouldn't cling so hard to the past. Ignorance is bliss sometimes." "What if I insist?" "All right then. Mr. Shawn loved you so much. His love deserves to be known by you, not buried with him forever." "Ms. Bay, 3 years ago when you suffered sudden heart failure, the young man who donated his heart to you was brain dead. Do you know who his mother was?" "I remember his mother was the director of a pharmaceutical research lab. Since I used her son's heart, I was able to come back to this world. After founding my company, every year I donated a large sum of money to the lab to support their research." Dr. Lin said in a heavy voice, "Dr. Liu is a pharmaceutical lunatic. Her mother died of cystic fibrosis, so her lifelong dream was to develop a special drug to treat cystic fibrosis and establish a research institute. Due to a lack of funds and staff, she didn't hesitate to use her own son for drug trials. That's what turned him into a vegetable. In human drug trials, what's lacking most are living test subjects. 3 years ago, her son's heart was transplanted into you to save your life. She saw an opportunity in this, so she gave Mr. Shawn a condition in exchange. Vivian felt a chill go down her spine. An answer involuntarily surfaced in her heart and her voice trembled. What condition? She proposed that Mr. Shawn volunteer to be her human drug trial subject. After 3 years as a test subject, those unknown drugs had already destroyed Mr. Shawn's health. His body, corroded by the drugs, suffered from organ failure and could no longer participate in drug research. That's why Dr. Liu released him from the lab. Hearing the whole story, Jonathan, who was standing to the side, was also shocked. He never expected the truth to be like this. The love Shawn felt for Vivian was so profound, so deep, that he was willing to lay down his life for her. Vivian felt as if an invisible hand were squeezing her heart, causing unbearable pain that couldn't be cured. Shawn, Shawn did so much for her, suffered so much pain, but what did she do? She mocked him to make him submit. She kept humiliating and tormenting him. Now she wanted nothing more than to go back and kill her past self. But before that, she wanted to avenge Shawn. With bloodshot eyes, looking like she had fallen into hell, she said in a rage, "Dr. Liu, I'll make you pay in blood." After receiving the invitation from Bay Technology, Dr. Liu came right away with the contract. Bay Technology was planning to sponsor them with $10 billion for drug research this time. Dr. Liu was overjoyed. The meeting wasn't at Bay Technology but at Vivian's villa, and she only invited her. At that moment, Dr. Liu was blinded by immense joy and quickly overlooked this suspicious detail. "Director Liu, don't worry, make yourself at home. Ms. Bay is truly generous and carefree. Thank you for your donation to our institute at this time. Cheers to you." Dr. Liu drank it all in one gulp. Speaking of generosity, if it weren't for Director Liu donating her son's heart back then, he would have rejected it. Dr. Liu drank the wine in one gulp and said, "Speaking of generosity, if Director Liu hadn't donated her son's heart, where would I be today? No way. Human compassion is key, and as someone in the medical field, of course I wouldn't just stand by and do nothing." Vivian slammed the glass in her hand onto the floor. "What human compassion? Let me ask you, Director Liu, is conducting drug experiments on healthy humans your idea of humanity?" Dr. Liu was startled by Vivian's sudden reaction and realized right then that something was off. She stood up and said, "Ms. Bay, I don't know what you're talking about. Looking at today's contract, it seems we have nothing more to discuss. I'm leaving." Saying that, she turned to leave, but when she reached the door, she found it locked. At the same time, the strength in her limbs seemed to drain away and she couldn't even stand. Vivian slowly got up and walked over to Dr. Liu. "Ms. Bay, let's talk this out. Is there some kind of misunderstanding?" "Misunderstanding, Dr. Liu, do you remember agreeing to donate your son's heart for my sake? Shawn was tortured by you at your institute for 3 years. Now you tell me it's a misunderstanding." Looking at the expression, Dr. Liu recalled what happened back then. At that time, the institute lacked funding, and due to a shortage of test subjects, there was no clinical data, which prevented the experiment from continuing. Coincidentally, this young man came looking for her, knelt before her, and begged her to donate her son's heart to the girl he loved. He said he was willing to serve her and repay her for life. Dr. Liu proposed that he work as a test subject at the institute until recently. Because he was a test subject for so long, his bodily functions severely declined and he could no longer serve as a test subject. Only then was he allowed to leave the institute. "Ms. Bay, he became a test subject of his own free will. I didn't force him. He agreed voluntarily. But I didn't want him to. I'd rather die myself than have him save me that way. Spare my life. I spared your life, but you didn't spare Shawn's. I didn't know he was so important to you. Otherwise, even with 10 times the courage, I wouldn't have dared use him for drug trials. Now that your career is thriving, you don't need to ruin your life over my insignificant one. Today, no matter what you say, you cannot escape your fate of death." The door opened from the outside. Jonathan, seeing everything inside the room, immediately stopped Vivian. "Vivian, don't be impulsive. Dr. Liu is illegally using living humans for drug research. The law exists to punish her. Don't do something so foolish." "Jonathan, you call it foolish? Shawn, just to save me, volunteered as a drug test subject but didn't dare tell me, choosing instead to make up a story so I would misunderstand him and hate me. Tell me, isn't this insane? On the verge of death, he still chose to donate his bone marrow for me and died in the operating room. Tell me, isn't this insane? He loved me so much and gave his all for me. And I didn't even know he had died and was even planning a wedding with someone else. Tell me, isn't this crazy? He lost his mind for me so many times. What does it matter if I lose my mind for him just once, Vivian? Shawn did so much for you, he only hoped that you'd live a good life. Don't let him down, I'll live if he lives. Vivian, do you want to go to hell after you die and be separated from Shawn for all eternity? Is there really an afterlife? For him, this life was already bound to be filled with regret. Shawn died, he can't be with Shawn anymore, he wants to have a next life with Shawn. Yes, there definitely will be. And Shawn is such a kind person that he will surely go to heaven after he dies. Vivian took a glance at Dr. Liu, who was lying unconscious on the floor, and called the bodyguards to take her to the hospital. Just make sure she stays alive. After that, Vivian led her people to tear down Dr. Liu's Pharmaceutical Research Institute. Through the recordings, she was able to see what my life here had been like over the past 3 years. The first day I walked in, I was still the sunny boy she remembered, but the research staff here didn't treat me like a person, but rather like a research sample. They drew my blood repeatedly, gave me medications, and analyzed me day after day, taking drugs and providing data. No one cared about the pain the medications caused me. Due to the erosion of the drugs, my complexion worsened day by day, and my spirit grew weaker by the day. At the end of the recording, my body was so exhausted that it couldn't bear the erosion of the drugs anymore. I writhing in pain and screaming, yet I kept calling out her name. Vivian, it hurts so much. Vivian, I miss you. Vivian felt a deep sorrow upon seeing that small figure on the screen. How she wished she could smooth out my furrowed brow, bear that pain in my place, as remorse and tears of sorrow streamed down her cheeks. She hated herself intensely. Why didn't I notice these anomalies when I came looking for him? At that time, I was only angry, hating me, humiliating me, and tormenting me, wanting me to bow down before her. She wanted to hear me say I regretted it, to find any remaining love in me, but she was disappointed time and again. She hated me, hated that I was so heartless toward her, hated that I threw away all those years of our relationship, but now Vivian knew. It wasn't that he didn't love, but that he loved too much, which is why he used such cruel words. To hide the love I feel for her deep in my heart, Vivian found my room at the institute, a tiny room that could barely fit a bed. It didn't even have windows, it was enclosed and oppressive, and I had been here for 3 years. Her whole body was curled up on that small bed, as if in doing so she could feel my temperature, feel my burning yet unspoken love. Shawn, I miss you so much. In my haze, the memory of her confessing her love to me long ago lived at the second orphanage anymore. We had lived there for over a decade, but we barely had any luggage. I grabbed my bags and looked back at the second orphanage step by step, turning my head again and again. Then I said, Vivian, I've lived at the second orphanage since the day I was born. This is my home. Now I feel like I've been abandoned all over again. It hurts so much. Vivian hesitated for a few seconds, reached out and took my hand saying, I'm still here, I'm your family too, I'll never abandon you. I pulled my hand away from Vivian. I said bitterly, they say girls fall for good looks and wealth. If you get a boyfriend one day, you'll definitely forget all about me. Last time I saw that handsome guy confessing his love to you, I already turned him down. I turned around and ignored her. Even if you rejected that handsome guy, others will definitely come along in the future. Other charming guys who will chase after you. Sooner or later, you'll say yes. At this time, I had just turned 18. It was the age when love blooms, and my heart was already deeply in love with Vivian. But Vivian had always shown me the care of an older sister toward a younger brother. I didn't know what feelings Vivian had for me. I didn't dare ask, and I was terrified that Vivian would really be taken away by someone else in the future. Vivian understood the meaning behind my words. I have a way to solve this once and for all, to guarantee that even if I get a boyfriend in the future, I won't abandon you. I swatted Vivian's arm. Vivian, are you seriously thinking about getting a boyfriend? You're so mean, I'm never talking to you again. Saying that, I turned away in anger to leave. Vivian stopped me immediately. Can you listen to me first? I don't care, either way you can't have a boyfriend. Vivian wrapped her arms right around me. Shawn, be my boyfriend. Let's take our relationship to the next level. We can be on the same family registry in the future. I froze on the spot and finally nodded. I finally nodded. Later, after we both confessed our feelings, we realized that we were already each other's chosen one. Vivian even joked that she was previously afraid of scaring me, so she had planned to confess when we both went to college. Unexpectedly, someone had rushed things ahead of her. If she hadn't confessed back then, she was afraid I would have cried. Hearing that, I covered my head, swinging my small fists. I gave her 2 soft thuds that didn't hurt her at all. Our first kiss was by Swan Lake on the college campus. That day was Christmas. Vivian had just returned from an off-campus inspection. It was almost midnight. I was waiting for you at the school gate. Vivian saw me shivering from the cold and quickly took off the scarf around her neck to put it on me. Didn't I tell you not to wait for me? My heart aches when you do this. I have to stand by you, I told her, looking at her with flickering eyes, because my heart aches for you too. At first, I wanted to go with her to do the inspection. I didn't want Vivian to suffer so much alone, but she said, Shawn, all my efforts are for you. If you do this, you'll make me feel like a useless person. I just need you to be happy and healthy by my side. I don't know how much time passed, but Vivian's phone rang, snapping her out of her memories. The excited voice of her assistant came through on the other end of the phone. Ms. Bay, we found where Shawn's ashes are buried. After hearing the news of my death, Vivian immediately sent people to the cremation center to locate my ashes. But the cremation center staff said the deceased had signed a non-disclosure agreement and that they wouldn't reveal my information to anyone. Vivian used a few methods to learn that I had booked a lavender burial in Provence at the cremation center before I died, but the exact location was unknown, so she sent her assistant to Provence to track down the exact location of my ashes. Meanwhile, she stayed behind to avenge my death. Now that she has found my ashes, she can finally be with me forever. Shawn, I hope you walk a little slower. Wait for me. Ms. Bay, it's not ashes. Mr. Shawn isn't dead. He's in salt. Half an hour later, a private jet took off from Beijing. Destination, Provence Salt. Shawn, did you come outside? Why didn't you call me? What if you fall? A faint smile appeared on the corner of my lips. I stared blankly straight ahead. I wanted to come out and smell the flowers after waking up. I've been exploring this place the last few days, so I won't fall that easily. In the operating room, I was declared dead due to cardiac shock. But when the cremation center staff received my body to cremate me, my heart began to beat slowly again. Surviving death, I felt nothing because I knew death would still be my final destination. I didn't know what point there was in heaven giving me a few more days to live. I directly asked the cremation center staff to bring me to Provence to wait for my death in silence. As soon as the words left my mouth, my legs gave out and I collapsed to the ground. Susan rushed over to help me sit down on a nearby chair. Shawn, your body is weak, sit down. I fumbled in my pocket and pulled out a card, handing it over to Susan. Susan, thank you for taking care of me these past few days. I have a hunch that my death is near in the next 2 days. There are tens of thousands of dollars on this card. Consider it my payment for your hard work. Susan stared at the card, realizing that I couldn't see, and handed the card back to me. No need, Shawn. Taking care of you is my job, plus I feel a great bond with you. Taking care of you is my choice. I put the card into Susan's hand. I'm an orphan and I'm about to die. This money is useless to me now. If you don't want it, can I ask you to donate this money to the orphanage when you return to Beijing after my death? Susan could only accept the money. Susan said, Shawn, don't worry, I'll definitely bring your kindness to the kids at the orphanage. Thank you, Susan. Shawn, do you think people really go to heaven after death? Why do you ask? It's because I recently watched a really sad melodrama. In the end, the male lead died and promised the female lead that he'd wait for her in heaven after death. When we were kids, we always listened to the orphanage mothers. They told us that those who did no evil in life and whose souls are pure will go to heaven after death. So, a person as kind as Shawn will definitely go to heaven after death. They say heaven is a place without sorrow, a world without pain where only eternal happiness exists. But would a world without Vivian really be happy? I don't know. I grew up in an orphanage. The kids at the orphanage always had the exact same haircut. They wore the same clothes and had fixed schedules for daily activities and meals. Life carried an air of constant dullness until Vivian arrived at the orphanage when I was 7. She was different from the rest in every single way, and she caught my attention instantly. At night, I discovered that Vivian was crying all by herself, hiding under her blanket. I lifted the blanket and asked why she was crying. Kids who grow up in orphanages grow up way too fast. They stop crying at a very young age because we know crying is the most useless thing ever. It can't solve a single problem. Hey, did your parents stop loving you too? In my subconscious, only kids abandoned by their parents are sent to an orphanage. That sentence made Vivian cry even harder. In the end, I had no choice but to pull out the piece of candy I'd been saving for a long time, unwrap it, and pop it into her mouth to stop her crying. That was also the very first step toward us becoming best friends. Later on, I learned that Vivian was sent to the orphanage because her parents died in an accident. She was different from us, kids who were abandoned the moment we were born, but back then, I felt like we were the same because neither of us had parents. Vivian would tell me so much about life outside the orphanage. I had never experienced that life, which was why I especially loved being around Vivian. I longed for the outside world. During those 11 years in the orphanage, we were each other's only support and family. At 18, I confessed my love to Vivian, and together we got into the same university. In our junior year, Vivian earned her first fortune from her writing and bought a small house in the city. From then on, the two of us finally had a home. In that house, Vivian and I spent our first time together. We planned to get married after graduation and have 2 adorable kids to build a happy family of 4. Unfortunately, fate played a cruel joke on us. We were together for 15 years. Vivian occupied every single moment of my life. Even in heaven, I wouldn't be happy without Vivian. Suddenly, I started to envy the male lead Susan talked about. Even though he died, he and the woman he loved made a promise to meet in heaven. But I have nothing. I don't even dare let Vivian know about my death. Vivian won't know to wait for me in heaven. Shawn, why are you crying? I clumsily raised my hand and wiped the tears off my face. It's nothing, just the wind blowing into my eyes. There wasn't even a hint of wind right then, but Susan didn't call out my lie, realizing I wasn't even half as serene and calm as I pretended to be. In the face of life and death, who doesn't get nervous and scared? Besides, I'm so young. Heaven is truly unfair. A person as kind as Shawn gets such a short life. Shawn, I'll read you the news. This was one of our daily activities. Since I can't see, Susan chooses funny news and entertaining stories to read to me. She pulled out her phone, browsed a bit, and cleared her throat. First up, a couple fantasized about winning $5 million but ended up fighting over how to split it. A practical male student met a hot girl online, but upon meeting her found out she was his roommate's mom. A thief stole over $10,000 in cash only to have it stolen from him. Furious, he called the police. Susan read several news stories in a row. Susan noticed I was just forcing a slight smile while covering my eyes. I didn't have a genuine expression. He also noticed my mood seemed especially low today. Shawn, what's wrong today? Are you feeling sick anywhere? No, I just didn't sleep well last night. Truth is, it wasn't that I didn't sleep well, I couldn't sleep at all last night, because today is Vivian and Jonathan's wedding day. Today, the woman I love most is getting married, but the groom isn't me. How about I take you back to your room to rest? I shook my head as if I had made a firm, unshakable decision. Susan, can you help me find a live stream of Vivian and young Master Jonathan's wedding today? Shawn, why are you looking for a live stream of their wedding? Susan asked in disbelief. But he still set it up anyway. Earlier back in the city, I heard their wedding was over-the-top lavish. The decorations alone cost hundreds of millions, so I wanted to hear just how luxurious their wedding was. It would also satisfy my own longing for a wedding. Susan joined the stream of a popular influencer, and afraid I couldn't hear clearly, he turned the phone volume all the way up to max. Welcome friends to Jinjin's livestream room. Today I'll be livestreaming the extravagant wedding of tech mogul Vivian and Jonathan. I heard Ms. Bay's partner really loves lavender, so the whole wedding theme centers around soft purple, and even the banquet hall lights are custom crystal chandeliers. The host went on and on describing the wedding venue, from the imported flowers to the silk red carpet covering the center stage. He introduced everything piece by piece. As I listened, my mind was already picturing the wedding scene all on its own. An hour later, Jonathan, all dressed up, appeared at the entrance of the wedding hall. Here he comes. The bride and groom are about to walk up to the stage. Make sure to stay tuned to my live stream, don't go away. Jonathan, in a white suit, walked down the red carpet with steady steps toward the stage. How strange. Why is there only the groom and no bride? Plus, rumors said Jonathan's suit would also be lavender, custom designed by Vivian. Why is Jonathan just wearing a plain white suit today? Jonathan reached the center of the stage, picked up the mic, looked at the guests, and said, "Welcome to all our friends and family who traveled from afar to attend today's wedding. I express my deepest gratitude to you all. Before the banquet begins, I have an announcement to make. Today's wedding has been canceled." Hearing this, a wave of shocked murmurs broke out through the crowd. Canceling the wedding right in the middle of the ceremony? That sounds insane. Everyone commented, "There's no bride at the wedding," leaving just the groom standing alone. Announcing a cancellation at the actual reception, there's definitely something crazy behind this. Did the groom cheat and get caught by the bride? Watching this on my phone, I'm also stunned. Why did they cancel their wedding? Was it because Vivian didn't show up? At that moment, all kinds of speculation flooded my mind. Canceling this wedding is a joint decision made by me and Vivian. The meaning of marriage is something we both hold very sacred. Right before the wedding, we realized we weren't the right fit for each other. You shouldn't settle in a marriage. That is something we both agree on. Therefore, to avoid putting on the wedding rings only to live out a farce, we decided to stop this mistake right away. He bowed deeply toward the audience. Once again, thank you all for coming. As I've said, all expenses for this banquet will be on my tab. Please consider this banquet as a big gathering among friends. Mr. Sun, since canceling the wedding is a joint decision between you and Ms. Bay, why didn't she show up at the wedding? And why are you the only one coming out to face such a major event? Yesterday, when Vivian boarded the plane, she called me and said she was going to Provence to look for me. As for the wedding between you two, she was going to have her assistant announce the cancellation through her personal account. At that point, all reports and comments online would target her, ensuring that Jonathan would walk away unscathed from this broken engagement. Jonathan refused, telling her to go find me without worry. She didn't need to worry about anything else. He could handle the wedding matters himself. He would fight for the final stretch of his love. That's why he put on his favorite white suit. In a way, he has married me in this lifetime. My love for Vivian doesn't compare to his, but he wouldn't let his love be tarnished either. Is there something strange about what you said regarding men? First of all, I don't think it's a big deal. I think I can resolve it myself. As for Vivian, she has more important matters to handle. This matter is more important than her life. As her friend, of course, I'll support her completely. Jonathan walked onto the stage with his family to support Jonathan's growth, quickly leaving the reporters speechless. Jonathan looked at his family standing by his side in support. A warm rush washed over him, and at the same time he sent his sincere wishes to Vivian, hoping she could find me without any trouble, and that we would never be parted. All this time he has witnessed Vivian's love for me. He believes Vivian loves with great struggle. Now he knows that I actually love with even greater struggle. It has always been a mutual love between us. I hope heaven takes pity on this loving couple and stops torturing them. The live stream ended. I can see that this young master son still loves Vivian. As the old saying goes, there are many foolish lovers in the world. He's just like that. He still protects Vivian so much. In my opinion, Vivian has definitely had a change of heart. She's a terrible girl. Right, Shawn? Right now my mind is consumed by Vivian and the cancellation of Jonathan's wedding. I paid no attention to what Susan said. Why did they cancel the wedding? Did Vivian find out about something? Shawn, what's wrong with you? Are you listening to me? What did you say? I said they canceled the wedding. Vivian has definitely changed her mind. She's such a bitch. Susan suddenly shouted, which scared me. Susan, what's wrong? Susan stared at the person who appeared in front of her, covered in dust with disheveled hair, and was rendered speechless with shock. She swore she would never talk bad about anyone behind their back again. Who could understand the shock of a bride ditching her own wedding and suddenly appearing right in front of her? Just as she was about to speak to me, she saw the person step up and wrap their arms straight around me. Suddenly, her eyes widened even more. Being hugged out of nowhere, I thought it was Susan. However, I quickly realized something was off. Who are you? Let go of me. The person said nothing, only holding me tighter. Why here in town? I was actually in a complete state of panic. I was about to struggle free when I suddenly felt something warm dripping onto my neck and I realized she was crying. Vivian's face instantly flashed in my mind. Vivian, Shawn, it's me. My heart raced. I had only one thought, she knows. Panicked, I shoved Vivian away. I turned around and tried to run. No, I can't, but I didn't get far. Since my eyes couldn't see properly, I tripped and tumbled to the ground. Vivian rushed over. She held me in anguish, her voice filled with longing and heartache. Shawn, how long are you going to keep pushing me away? You shouldn't be here, you should be at the wedding. At the wedding beside young Master Jonathan. Why are you here? Shawn, I love you. My love for you has never stopped for even a single day. Please don't reject me anymore. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. At this moment, Vivian didn't want to hear anything except my confession of love. The longing and love suppressed for 3 years completely exploded. I raised my hands and tightly wrapped my arms around Vivian, sobbing uncontrollably. But I'm about to die, Vivian. I'm about to die. I can't stay by your side for much longer. I don't want Vivian to see my corpse, and even less do I want Vivian to live forever with guilt and longing after my death. Vivian gently stroked my cheek, wiping away my tears. Shawn, I won't let you die. From now on, even if the sky falls or the earth splits open, you won't be able to leave me behind. Saying that, she held onto me tightly. On her way here, she had already contacted the most authoritative experts. She was going to snatch my life back from the Reaper's hands. Vivian helped me into the car, and soon we arrived at the hospital. After an exam, the doctor looked at the medical report in his hand and shook his head repeatedly. The organs in his body are severely failing. There's also damage caused by long-term use of unidentified drugs. The fact that he held on until today is already a miracle. Vivian refused to believe it and snatched the report from the doctor. Don't you brag about having the most advanced medical tech. As long as you can save him, money is no object. Ms. Bay, regarding this gentleman's body, we beg your forgiveness for our helplessness. His body has reached a critical limit. It could happen at any moment. The doctor's unfinished words, everyone present understood what they meant. You're talking nonsense. You're just incompetent and you dare curse Shawn. I lay on the hospital bed, reaching out my hand and calling Vivian's name. Vivian. Vivian immediately let go of the doctor, rushed over to my side and took my hand. Shawn, I'm here. Vivian, take me to home. I know my own body. Don't bother the doctor anymore. Shawn, don't listen to that nonsense. Your body is perfectly fine. I'm sure you'll be healthy and live to be 100. Vivian, take me back. I don't want to spend the last moments of my life in a hospital. Shawn, be good. It's just that this hospital is incompetent. I'll take you to another hospital. Vivian, stop fooling yourself. Just being able to see you one last time before this and touch your cheek again, I'm already content. Vivian didn't give up and took me to another hospital, but the result was the same. My body's functions have reached their absolute limit. I could pass away at any moment. Because of my insistence, Vivian brought me back to the cabin by the lavender fields. Along the way, Vivian felt extremely terrified. She held me tight, not daring to even blink, terrified that the next second I'd close my eyes forever without a sound, leaving her behind. Noticing her anxiety, I raised my hand and traced up her arm to her cheek, speaking softly to comfort her. Vivian, don't be afraid. Vivian's eyes turned red and she lowered her head, burying her face in my neck. Shawn, why are you so foolish? I'd rather die than see you like this for my sake. Vivian, if our situations had been reversed 3 years ago, what would you have done? Vivian couldn't help but give serious thought to this question. In the end, only one answer came to her mind. If 3 years ago she and I had truly swapped places, she probably would have made the exact same choice. Because they love each other more than their own lives. I definitely wouldn't have been as foolish as you. I would have married you, and a few years after you died, I'd forget all about you and remarry. Vivian, you're so mean. If I'd known, I wouldn't have saved you. Shawn, you shouldn't have saved me. But Vivian, I don't want you to die. I want you to live in this world safe and sound. Shawn, without you, what point is there to my life? This is what I feared most in my heart. That's why I never dared to tell Vivian the truth. Vivian, you have to promise me, even if I pass away, you have to keep living well in this world. I'll let you mourn for me for 3 years, but after 3 years, you have to marry young Master Jonathan. Seeing how I was already like this, yet still worrying about her future, tears streamed down Vivian's face. Shawn, do you know how cruel your words are, making me watch you die and then marry someone else, in life or in death? I squeezed Vivian's hand tightly. Vivian, this is my final request before I die. You have to promise me, Shawn, anything other than this, I promise you. From the moment she learned the truth, she had already decided. From now on, she will live and die with Shawn. Like we said before, it's my duty to protect you for a lifetime, but now not only have I failed to protect you, I've caused you to suffer so much because of me. How could I leave you all alone and let you go by yourself? Shawn, whether it's hell or heaven, I'm staying by your side. Tears fell one by one from your unmoving eyes. Why are you so foolish? Why do you have to be so foolish? Anyone else can call me foolish, but you can't because you're 1,000 times, 10,000 times more foolish than me. My heart feels sweet, but also full of despair, because I know that no matter what, I can't change Vivian's mind. Vivian really plans to die with me, but I don't want her to die. Vivian, since you know I did all this for you, then you shouldn't let my efforts go to waste. You should live well with my hope. Live with my eyes to see the world for me, but no matter what I say, Vivian won't give in, she won't accept it. When the two of us returned to the cabin, Vivian wanted to hold my hand as I got out of the car. I was angry and didn't give her my hand. Vivian didn't get mad. Me being angry at that moment in her eyes looked more like the cheerful me from before. She helped me straight into the cabin and set me on the bed. Sitting on the bed, I immediately curled up and hugged my knees. I shouted Susan's name. There's only one room here. I booked a hotel for her. Now in the whole house, it's just you and me. Vivian went to fetch water to help me wash my face. I didn't cooperate either, even knocking over the basin. Vivian cleaned up the house patiently, then brought another basin of water to wipe me down. Her fingers touched the fine scars on my palm. The things she had done to me in the past flashed before my eyes again. Bothered by kneeling in front of me, she bowed her head and gently kissed the palm of my hand. Even submission is a return of kindness. Shawn, I'm sorry. Before I let myself be blinded by stupidity and jealousy. During the 3 years you weren't here, I never forgot you for even a single moment. I wanted to look for you, but I was terrified of seeing you and Ryan together. The act you and Ryan put on back then became my nightmare for a long time. Later, you reappeared in front of me and offered me a shell necklace in exchange for money. I was happy and angry at the same time. I remember you still had the necklace I gave you. I was angry because you were going to give it back to me for $30,000. I did a series of harmful and irrational things. Shawn, our time is running out. Are you sure you want to keep being angry with me in our final moments? Vivian, you also know my time is running out. I only ask you to grant my last wish to live well, but I don't want to. Shawn, you don't know. The 3 years without you were so painful for me. Listening to Vivian's voice, I finally couldn't hold it back anymore. I reached out to try to pull her up but touched her wet cheek instead. She cried again. My heart softened as well. I fumbled for Vivian's hand, grabbed it, and pulled her closer to me. Vivian, fate has already been cruel enough to us. I finally saved her life once. Please don't make me suffer anymore. This is the first time I've encountered the injustice of destiny under a full moon. Our lives have been so turbulent, Vivian gave in. Because she wanted me to win, she wanted me to overcome this unfair fate. She promised me she would live well even if living only brings pain. The two spent their first night holding each other in 3 years. I slept deeply, but Vivian didn't dare to sleep much. Every few moments she looked at the person in her arms, but I won't disappear. The next morning I felt my forehead being touched gently. An unconscious smile appeared at the corner of my lips. This was the scene I had always hoped for, waking up every morning in the arms of my beloved. Even if tomorrow is the end of the world, I'll have the courage to face it. Then I heard Vivian whisper in my ear, Shawn, marry me. You still owe me a wedding, but I don't mind, but you just need to say yes. I'll take care of everything else, I accept. I really don't have much time left to live. From now on, I don't want to waste another second. After getting permission, Vivian prepared breakfast personally. After eating, we got our marriage certificate locally. In the afternoon, the suit personally designed by Vivian arrived by plane. I reach out my hand and touch the intricate patterns on the suit and fly. Is this the piece Jonathan had? Yes and no. The style is similar to the one Jonathan used to wear, but I made this one myself. When I designed the suit, I always thought about how you'd look wearing it, so I made two, one I designed myself and had crafted by artisans. Shawn, I'll help you put it on. Our wedding was very simple. In the middle of an endless field of purple lavender, the assistant and Susan acted as officiants and witnesses. Ms. Vivian, do you take Shawn to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold in sickness and in health, in poverty or in wealth? Or for any other reason to love, cherish, respect, honor, and be faithful to him until the end of your days? Vivian looked at me dressed in a dark suit before her. She shouted out loud, I do. Mr. Shawn the groom, do you take Miss Vivian to be your wife, to have and to hold in sickness and in health? Or for any other reason to love and cherish her, respect, honor, and be faithful to her forever until the end of your days? A smile on my lips, tears in my eyes. I do. Now the groom may kiss the bride. After the wedding, my body grew weaker and weaker. I often fell asleep for whole days, and every time that happened, Vivian stayed by my side motionless. She was like a statue. Only when I opened my eyes again did she seem to come alive. When I was awake, what I loved most was having Vivian hold my hand and take me to the lavender field to smell the flowers and feel the breath of nature. Vivian, I'm so sleepy. Vivian squeezed my hand, her voice trembling slightly. If you're sleepy, go to sleep. I'll always stay with you, but at this moment I don't want to close my eyes at all. It turns out that when someone is really dying, they actually have premonitions of the end. I know that with this closing of my eyes, I will never wake up again. I raised my hand and gently stroked Vivian's cheek, wanting to engrave her face deep into my mind. Vivian, I've heard that good people go to heaven after they die, a place without sadness, without pain, only eternal happiness. Do you think I can go to heaven? Vivian's eyes turned red. Yes, Shawn, you will live happily in heaven. Vivian, this time I'll go to heaven to wait for you first. When you're 100 years old, come find me. Okay, Shawn, I will definitely go find you. A satisfied smile appeared on my face. My lover and I had a promise in heaven. I will love her forever in heaven and wait for her forever. My fingers slid down from Vivian's cheek. This time I didn't wake up again. My body grew cold little by little in Vivian's arms. Vivian held me tightly. Shawn, I'm sorry, I can't keep what I promised you before. Vivian pulled out a medication she had prepared long ago and took it. Shawn, now I'm going to heaven to find you. You lied to me once. Now I'm lying to you once too. Where even once we reach heaven, you can't blame me. Even if you do, it's fine. As long as you let me stay by your side. A gust of wind blew by. Vivian's body and mine fell together into the lavender field. In the lavender field, we both had a contented smile on our faces. From now on, we can finally be together forever. By the time the assistant and Susan arrived, our bodies were already cold. They collected Vivian's body and mine. After cremating us as we had wished in life, our ashes were scattered across the lavender field. Susan had tears in her eyes. Assistant, do you think Shawn and Ms. Bay will still find each other in their next life?